Welcome to Mainland, your local regional television station. I'm Tania Omar, and some of the stories coming up in our Nelson Tasman Regional News Roundup. Residents react to proposed apartment block, Motueka High School receives good news, and Nelson hit by car theft crime wave, and more. Freeing up land and what residents can assume as part of the housing accord signed by local and central governments, Beatz Car Park at the base of Cathedral Hill in Nelson CBD has become a focus in council freeing up a state-owned asset they see as fit for purpose. The car park first came to public attention regarding council's intention in the headlines in March after an excluded to the public deal by Nelson City Council plans to sell the land for a special housing area development first came to light, which one would assume would go in part to address housing affordability in Nelson. At a council planning meeting held last week, council approved the next stage for the Beatz Car Park redevelopment, which now means that negotiations with Scott Syndicate Development Company will begin for the purchase of the site, regardless of residents speaking to councillors about their concerns for their community. However, it seems residents were not shown all the development submissions and were only presented with the one design that council had already chosen without any previous public consultation. We spoke to one of those affected by the council's decision to sell the car park for this approved development. As a resident in Niles Street, what's the process been like for you with the development of Beatz Car Park in the wind?
Sort of shocking. There were 2 meetings about this that we were informed of, and it was interesting to see for me to see how those meetings are conducted. And it seemed that everything was just rush. I mean, unseemingly rushed. The first meeting, which was the committee meeting, no one was allowed to speak. But unfortunately, the McKinseys were going to be out of town the following week, and so my neighbor got to speak, and he was quite comprehensive and I thought intelligent, but it didn't seem to have any impact. I was looking carefully at the councillors' faces, and they all seemed to have made up their mind before they had heard anything from the community. The second meeting, which we actually got to speak, was even more shocking because the mayor told us that, because we were told beforehand, we each had 5 minutes to speak. But then before we started speaking, she let it be known that the 5 minutes also included questions and answers to the councillors. So that's pretty ram-bam down your throat. In 5 minutes, you get to speak and any questions. Well, fortunately, Pete Rainey asked Rachel, is that really necessary? This is sort of important that these people be heard and we can ask them questions. And so then they did open up the questioning period a little bit longer. But it really felt to me like a done deal. It didn't feel like that we were being consulted at all.
Well, the Beatz Car Park is part of the special housing area, which is meant to address affordability in Nelson. Do you think that's been taken into consideration?
Absolutely not. There's no way that that's going to be affordable. Just the price the council's asking plus what they're showing. I believe it's going to be more investors who won't even be living here. So much for the vital downtown Nelson. I mean, we have our neighbors over here. Only 3 of those units are occupied. They're lovely people from England who like to have a summer there and here. But how does that serve us to have absentee? It's for speculators coming into, and that's why I'm so opposed to having that rammed down my throat that they're saying it's all under the Affordable Housing Act. It's simply not. I mean, my main thing is that this thing that they have lauded as being so architecturally wonderful could be beautiful on Collingwood Street next to some of those other gray high-rises. But here on Niles Street, on the park, under the cathedral, it's absurd.
You mentioned that they said it's part of revitalising the inner city. What is this going to address with revitalising the city? What are your thoughts around this?
Well, first of all, to me, it looks like it violates any of the city codes that we have. I mean, a few years ago, when they built that, they asked everybody else to take their fences down because we need to be good neighbors, and gardens and low fences help the community be more cohesive. And yet they're trumpeting a building that comes right up to the sidewalk. How does that enhance the vitality of downtown Nelson? It actually is going to kill Niles Street. And being a small business owner here, I can tell you that when people come to Nelson from Barcelona, Beijing, Sweden, Norway, they come up to the cathedral, they walk a gorgeous park, they look down the hill, and they just smile, and they come here, they stand in front of my building and photograph it like no other building I've ever seen has been photographed as much as this. And this very building, which I love and love living in, I don't want to move. I want to live here.
Last week, Mainland reported some of the issues around a lack of affordable housing in our region, but is Council on the right track to provide a solution? Objections were raised by local residents last week about a proposed 5-storey apartment that would stand about 20 metres high in Hoonah Nui, designed to help cater for low-cost housing. Nelson City councillors may seem to have been forced to kick the concept to the curb last week after compelling arguments were put to council by Hoonah Nui residents.
Like many other people in my neighbourhood, I was completely gobsmacked to learn about the proposal to designate the used car yard on the corner of Bisley and Hoonah Nui Drive a special housing area. What on earth are you thinking, trying to sneak through with minimum notice and no consultation something that will fundamentally change the nature and feel of Hoonah Nui? And it's extraordinary that you can wake up one day and then find within you're 2 days away from someone rubber stamping a proposal that actually, once that's done, you actually lose all rights really for any meaningful input into that decision. And this is something which will change the fundamental look and feel of my community. And we know that if this proposal goes through, it's going to open the floodgates to a whole lot of other similar developments. So today you're effectively determining the future shape of Hoonah Nui without any consultation with residents or the community. Your own office's report states that the reason for using the SHA shortcut process is to further incentivise development in this area. So it's clearly intended that this isn't a one-off development. You don't have a mandate to turn Hoonah Nui into a sort of high-rise paradise or approve a development which is such a departure from the type of development contemplated in the Nelson Resource Management Plan. And it's a good plan. It was well thought through. It was lots of consultation. It reflected the desires of the community, and somehow that's just getting torn up completely, and something completely at odds with that is now proposed, and we have no input into it. You know, it's like waking up in Soviet Russia and finding the Politburos making these decisions on what's good for you. You've already exceeded your targets under the Housing Accord, so there's no compelling reason for pushing more consents through this anti-democratic process. So at the moment you've got something like 417 units against a year one target of 240, and one of the footstools of this SHA process is that you're actually meant to establish that there is a demand, and I haven't seen any evidence in the scanty report that you've got in front of you to show that there is actually an unsatisfied demand for even more apartment-style dwellings in this area. And that's something that should be in this report, showing that that you have got some support for that. I don't know how that a decision like this can be immune from Council's own significant and engagement policy. And what's bizarre is, your office's report states the public has not been consulted, and that's on the basis that the Haja Act doesn't require consultation in identifying SHAs. Well, it doesn't, because actually you don't even get out of the starting blocks until you've made a recommendation to the Minister. So I believe at the moment you're acting under the Local Government Act, not the Harsha, and so you are still required to follow the decision-making process of the Local Government Act. And if you don't, I think you're seriously up to challenge on that.
Mayor Rachel Reese is out of town this week, but next week we'll respond to Mainland's question over special housing areas actually addressing affordable housing issues as laid out in the Housing Accord. Medicinal cannabis is a contentious issue, with many calling for easier access to the drug and lower costs since the death of Nelson teenager Alex Renton last year. It's almost a year since Alex passed away in Wellington Hospital after 3 months of being in a coma while in a state of prolonged seizure. Chrissy Small spoke to Rose Renton, mother of Alex, and year-long campaigner for access to medicinal cannabis.
Rose, it's almost a year officially since you lost Alex, though you did lose him a wee bit before that. Tell us a bit about what was launched just recently on the 1st of April and to help the cause for medicinal cannabis.
Well, Alex's sister Jessie launched a website. It's medicine.co.nz, which is the people's petition for New Zealand government to create an easier access to cannabis as medicine. And it's not a pharmaceutical product we're after our right to choose a non-toxic natural medicine in the form of cannabis, which includes the raw material. So that's what was launched on the 1st of April, and at this stage we're around 10,000. I'm due to do a new tally, and the support, Chrissy, has been incredible.
Right, okay, now we've got Helen Kelly at the moment who's really struggling. She's taking illegal cannabis, I believe, or has been, and she's fighting the same fight to try and get the rules to change to allow people to have some access to this pain relief.
Well, yeah, she's dying of cancer.
Yeah.
She's terminal. And her argument is this works, it works, she can't take the morphine. So, and she was denied, her specialist was denied, there wasn't enough information for the product she and he chose. So we've got a minister with no medical training making choices against specialists and patients. So it goes against basic human rights. So yes, she is taking it, and a friend of hers on the coast with again a terminal illness, and Osborne, is also taking the cannabis oil, which is being given to her at great risk for both of them, but they're one of thousands of people across New Zealand using cannabis illegally and sourcing it themselves.
The Minister of Health, Mr Dunn, has said identifying the greatest therapeutic benefits and determining the most appropriate ratios, dosages and delivery mechanisms would only come through a robust scientific approach, which means research.
I think he's stalling there. As far as clinical trials go, we have a medicine as cannabis that's been around for thousands of years. We have people in New Zealand that have been using cannabis as medicine for as long as we can remember. So the trials, why are we trialling something that you cannot overdose on? I make a tincture which would be similar to Sativex, and it costs me nothing to make. Sativex is being charged out at $1,200 to $1,600 per month, and the cannabis amount that's in that would mean it's $6,000 an ounce. Now, on the street value, it's $300 odd for an ounce of cannabis. So again, what they want to do is regulate cannabis into a pharmaceutical system to cane the people financially and create money out of it. Cannabis is the people's medicine. We can grow 3 in the backyard. We can learn about how it grows. You can choose an indica strain for rest and relaxation, or you can choose a sativa strain, which is about motivation and getting up and having higher energies and moving around. You don't even need to be high on the homemade cannabis strains. The tincture I make doesn't get you high. It's therapeutic. It's CBT high, it's high in the CBDs, which is the medicine Alex had. So we don't need trials. We need access and a law change to enable people's human rights to choose cannabis as medicine. Those that choose pharmaceuticals have that option. There's plenty of us that do not want to choose those medications because you can overdose easily on them. They're toxic to the body and you have trouble with your kidney and liver. Cannabis does not do that, so that's a no-brainer.
Okay, so look, we're talking about him saying that there needs to be a robust scientific approach. He was also the minister responsible for bringing in cannabinoids. Did he go through that same robust scientific approach with those?
The synthetic highs? I don't believe he did. So he allowed synthetic cannabis into New Zealand with dire results, extreme stresses to families, young people addicted because they couldn't get natural cannabis, life-threatening, psychotic behaviour. He didn't test those. He allowed his son to make millions by accessing those and bringing them into New Zealand. And yet we sit here and fight for a natural, non-toxic cannabis medicine. It's corruption because it's about making money and turning cannabis into a sativa type, Sativex type product, and that's what we don't want.
Senior students at Motueka High School turned out on Wednesday morning this week in the school staff room to hear an announcement that will impact the growing school roll. Associate Minister of Education, Nikki Kay, arrived soon after 9 a.m. with local Tasman List MP Maureen Pugh to give the school some good news.
Well, I have one of the best jobs in New Zealand. Being Associate Minister of Education, but also Minister for Youth, I have this extraordinary opportunity to constantly come into schools and meet so many incredible young people. So I often say to people, whatever you read on the paper in terms of young New Zealanders, it is a smidgen of what's actually going on. Recently I had some youth awards at Parliament, and it's a chance whereby the Prime Minister spoke. We basically call for nominations across the country and say, tell us the stories of young New Zealanders doing extraordinary things. Now we've got young Kiwis designing programs in cyberbullying, leading environmental initiatives not only in New Zealand but across the world. We've got young Kiwis. When we had the extraordinary tragedy in Canterbury, it was the Sam Johnsons and the student armies that stepped up. So I think the first thing that I would say to you as students is never underestimate the power that you have to make change. And it sort of brings me to, sort of one of the reasons why I'm here is really to talk about your community and make an announcement, which I think shows that we really believe in you and we're investing in you. So I am confirming today that the government is investing about $1 million in Motueka High School to ensure that you get 3 new classrooms. And what that's about is actually acknowledging that there's quite a lot of young people that want to come here, and that is a testament not only to your leadership, but also to your staff, to your board, but also to you. All of those different people make a difference in terms of why people want to come here. So there's a really significant announcement. Just to give you a bit of background, we've got 60% of school buildings in New Zealand are more than 40 years old. We've got leaky buildings, which is quite a big cost. We've got about 30,000 buildings across New Zealand. And we've got earthquake strengthening issues, plus we're trying to fix all of the Canterbury, plus we've got some growth issues. So what we've tried to do, we've got the largest ever injection of cash in the budget. So basically the budget's the time where ministers all fight together to try and get the most amount of cash to invest in education or transport. And education got the largest amount ever. And so we are spending, in our time in government, about $5 billion by mid-next year. To give you a context of how much money that is in history, the whole replacement portfolio for all of the 2,500 schools in New Zealand is about 23 billion. And so it's a lot of money, and what it means is that I'm able to, alongside Hiki Parada, basically come in here and say, yep, we're going to be able to do these buildings, and I know that you'll have conversations with the Minister exactly how they operate and when they're going to be delivered, but I only have the opportunity to do that because we've won the argument in Cabinet and we've managed to get that money for education. The other announcement that I'm making today is really about, it's sort of, and I say to people, I meet a lot of young people who have had pretty hard roads, everything from drug and alcohol addiction to attempted suicide to sexual abuse, and there are people who have had some pretty challenging lives. And one thing that I do as Associate Minister of Education, but more as Minister of Youth Development, is my job is, and it's a small amount of money, because if you can imagine in Associate Education we're talking hundreds of millions, but my whole budget for youth development is about $7 or $8 million. And I've made some changes to make sure that, because typically we would have funded 50,000 opportunities from Duke of Edinburgh to Stage Challenge, just all of those opportunities where young people get a chance to have a leadership place or chance to do Duke of Edinburgh. And I'm growing that to 70,000 youth opportunities, partly because I've saved money in various places. I'm working with philanthropists and business. And what I'm confirming today is previously there's been some Duke of Edinburgh places that have been offered in this region, and we're taking that number up. So we're going to offer through the Bullareep Trust about 100 places, so we're about 20% more for the Hillary Award. So it's wonderful to be here. I'm looking forward to chatting with many of you. Have a fantastic day. Thank you very much for having me. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Stolen vehicles being set alight seems to be a trend on the rise amongst car thieves around the Nelson region. In the last 5 days, there have been as many stolen cars set on fire after being taken for joyrides around Nelson. Some of these vehicles have been set alight and left to go up in flames in residential areas near occupied homes. One incident involved a car that, while stolen from Christchurch, was dumped and set alight on Sovereign Street near Guppy Park this week on Monday night. Then again on Tuesday, Nelson fire staff attended 3 separate incidents, one located deep within the Maitai Valley and the other 2 on the aptly named Fireball Road. The latest being Thursday morning saw fire engines called to Quebec Road at around 6:45 a.m, where a red Hyundai, which was also stolen, was found on fire. These are not victimless crimes and leave those car owners and their neighbours feeling very vulnerable. We caught up with one victim of these vehicle fires who didn't wish to be identified to find out about the impact of this on their life.
I don't think these people realise that it's not just one little thing, because there's the whole bureaucratic nightmare of sorting through all these things with the police and other agencies and just waiting on telephones while you've got work to do.
When I first spoke with you about this a while ago, you mentioned that it wasn't actually, the car wasn't found through traditional means like the police out searching for it. It was, you found out in other means.
I really think that our police are highly understaffed. They're all good people and they're doing their best. But when I rang 111, I was put on hold because they had other emergencies going on. And then they say, is someone's life in danger? And then they put you through to something called the non-urgent helpline, and that's insulting actually when you've got a life to get on with. So the bureaucracy has actually, made it even worse.
What's the next step for you?
The next step for me is to wait.
After the break, we'll bring you the latest weather update and some events and happenings coming up from around the region.
Are you looking for a scooter, walker, wheelchair, baby seats or pushchairs? Then come in and see the Nelson Region Specialist at Mobility for You, 269 Queen Street, Richmond, opposite the library. We have a huge selection of scooters, walkers, wheelchairs and accessories, along with a free booklet guide. We also provide a breakdown service if you ever get a puncture or a flat battery. We have fully equipped service vans to rescue you. Hi, I'm Robin Jordan and I invite you to call in and see the friendly team at Mobility for You, 269 Queen Street, Richmond, opposite the library.
Why would you want to pay as much as $1,000 for a single bed mattress when you can buy a high quality locally made mattress like this for as little as $220? And a queen size mattress could cost you in excess of $3,000, but at Nelson Beds you could have a mattress like this as low as $425. So why would you go out and spend a fortune on your child's bedroom when you can come to Nelson Beds and buy a complete single mattress and base set, a 7-drawer Scotch chest, a headboard and a 3-drawer bedside cabinet for as little as $979? So call and discuss our custom manufacturing options and local after sales service at Nelson Beds, Nelson's only bedding manufacturer.
We're the team at J-Car, right here in Nelson, 120 Hardy Street. Our shop is full of electronic items,
including security alarm systems, electronic components,
solar and power,
electronics toys,
sound systems, cables and much, much more. J-Car.
120 Hardy Street, Nelson.
Sit and Be Fit is on at the Victory Community Centre Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. at the Victory Community Church, 238 Upper Vanguard Street. School terms only. Fun while you get fitter, work at your level.
On behalf of the team here at Mainland Television News, thank you for joining us.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
Nelson Tire Centre. Great prices, great service. Buy your own Bryford trailer. All types, all sizes. See Colin Douglas for your tires and batteries.
Are you looking for a scooter, walker, wheelchair, baby seats or pushchairs? Then come in and see the Nelson Region Specialist at Mobility for You, 269 Queen Street, Richmond, opposite the library. We have a huge selection of scooters, walkers, wheelchairs and accessories, along with a free booklet guide. We also provide a breakdown service if you ever get a puncture or a flat battery. We have fully equipped service vans to rescue you. Hi, I'm Robin Jordan and I invite you to call in and see the friendly team at Mobility for You, 269 Queen Street, Richmond, opposite the library.
We're the team at J-Car, right here in Nelson, 120 Hardy Street. Our shop is full of electronic items,
including security alarm systems, electronic components,
solar and power,
electronics toys,
sound systems, cables and much, much more.
J-Car. 120 Hardy Street, Nelson.